from the News Channel 5 network. This is Inside Politics.
Hello, everyone. I'm News Channel 5's political analyst Pat Nolan. Welcome to Inside Politics. As has often been the case in previous years, September is proving to be a challenging and contentious month in Washington. Congress is trying to decide about a new federal spending plan with the current budget about to expire at the end of September. Without it, the government shuts down again. Lawmakers are also facing another debt limit challenge, as the nation could face a first ever default on what it owes by sometime next month without raising or suspending the debt limit. Meanwhile, fights continue among the Democrats over two massive infrastructure bills involving trillions of dollars, along with what to do about voting rights, immigration, and other issues. Our guest today on Inside Politics to discuss these matters is Tennessee 6th District Republican Congressman John Rose. Congressman, welcome back to Inside Politics. It's great to see you and have you on the program.
Thank you, Pat. It's a privilege to be here, and as always, it's a privilege to represent the people of the 6th District of Tennessee.
Congress always can't seem to get a budget done by the end of September when the federal fiscal year ends. It's happened both when Congress was under the control of the Republicans and now under the control of the Democrats. Why can't Congress do their business so they can get the budgets done on time?
Well, you're right, and Congress is a little bit like a college student that puts off studying for the final exam until the night before the exam, and it doesn't lead to good outcomes, I'm afraid. The budgeting process is governed by the 1974 Budget Act that sets forth a process where the president submits a budget, the House and Senate put forward a budget, and then we proceed to advance through 12 appropriations bills. Unfortunately, what's happened on both sides of the aisle in recent years is that those appropriations bills get put off and postponed and lumped together into these monolithic bills that come up at the last minute, giving members very little time to look them over. We've got to get back to regular order or put a new process in place if we can't follow the one that we have now.
The House has passed a budget, or at least some kind of continuing resolution bill to keep the government funded. It seems to be bogged down perhaps in the Senate because of the debt limit, which we'll talk about as well. But it appears that, how do you think this is going to turn out? The Senate's likely to turn down the current bill, so we're going to come back with a standalone bill from the Democrats?
I think probably so. Earlier this week on Tuesday, we took up what's called a continuing resolution, which is essentially a short-term funding mechanism for the government that would fund the government through early December. Regretfully, the Democrats were fighting amongst themselves about that. We only got the text a few hours before we had to vote on it. There's a squabble on their side between their progressives, led by the Squad, that want to take away funding for Israel and protecting our most important ally in the Middle East. And so they were fighting amongst themselves over that, ultimately changed the bill at the last minute. But in that continuing resolution, they included a suspension, not an increase, but a suspension of the debt limit. And so the variety of extra provisions that they threw in with that continuing resolution really made it unacceptable. It passed on a party line basis, and I think the Senate won't accept it. So this will be coming back to the House after the Senate has their say.
In terms of the debt limit or a debt suspension bill before them, the U.S. has always paid its debts. These are past debts we're talking about, not new spending that the Congress may adopt. Why not go ahead and at least do something about this? You don't want the good faith and credit of the United States to go into a bad situation for the first time ever.
Right. The U.S. pays its bills, and we're going to pay our bills here. It is important to remember that the current debt limit that was through July 31st paid all of our past bills. So what we're talking about is looking in the front windshield. We're looking at debt that we're going to take on in the future. And so the problem is that the Democratic leadership is asking for a blank check and for future spending. And we know they have close to $5 trillion in additional spending on the table that they hope to put through if a debt limit increase is passed or a suspension is passed. And so we're talking about signing a blank check. And I think if the Democrats in the House and the Senate and the Democratic control of all of federal government, if they're going to ask for a blank check from the American people, then we should ask them to sign that check.
Several national business groups, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, I think in the Business Roundtable, are supporting the increasing or suspending the debt limit. What are you hearing from groups in Tennessee and business about this? These are normally Republican-leaning groups, yet they seem to be siding with the Democrats on this issue.
Well, sure. I think that you have to kind of separate this issue as we've just discussed. I mean, the U.S. needs to pay its bills, and I think ultimately we will. The struggle that we see happening right now over either an expansion of the debt limit or a suspension, which is what the Democratic majority is proposing, is about what that future spending is going to look like. And so I think at the end of the day, again, if the Democrats all year have been advancing legislation on a purely partisan basis, they're attempting to do that again. And so if they are going to pass spending bills on a purely partisan basis, then it makes sense for them to muster the votes to expand or suspend the debt limit and do that on a partisan basis as well. And we shouldn't be giving them, again, a blank check.
There are some who believe the Republicans are going through this process in some ways because they want the Democrats to take the debt limit bill and put it under the budget reconciliation process, what you're calling the partisan process, because it only takes a majority or all the Democrats to vote for it, and it would pass. Are you trying to block the infrastructure bills, at least the big one, by doing that?
Well, I don't think it's about that. I think basically what you see happening is a fight among the Democratic majority to determine, just how far they're going to go. So they have this, big $3.5 trillion proposal that they're trying to push through. It won't get any Republican support. Therefore, they'll have to do it vis-a-vis the reconciliation process over on the Senate side. And so, I think they've got to decide as a majority what they're going to do, and they shouldn't be asking us to help pay the bill and then, turn the spending decisions over to them to advance those on a partisan basis without any input from the Republican side.
I might point out that the bills that are before Congress on reconciliation, there's a limited number of those to do, and I believe this is the last time the Democrats have at least one more to do. If they take it and put it on the debt limit, they won't be able to do it at all on the infrastructure, so that would effectively probably stop that particular bill, right?
Well, I'm not familiar with all of the Senate process there, but I don't believe that's true. They will have additional opportunities to use reconciliation for the coming budget year. So if they combined in some way the debt limit increase as a part of this, I think they could just put it in the broader spending proposal that they would be trying to push through using reconciliation.
Tennessee Congressman John Rose is our guest on Inside Politics. We're talking about a busy and contentious month in Washington. Back to continue our conversation with the Congressman after you watch these messages.